Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of What's Happening in Travel. I'm here with my buddy,
Bushra,
and I am Kerwin, and this is episode 66. And what day are we doing this, Kushro? Is
the
it
6th of February.
say Saturday, February 6th? So it's kind of a bleaky day here in Houston. It's probably going to bleaky all day. But Kushro, what's background do you have back there?
I have an image of the 777-9 flying over some area with a lot of windmills. That just caught my fancy for the
There you
morning.
go. I was gonna say that could be Texas, but it's not.
No,
You do know that Texas has a huge windmill farm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's quite amazing, and it's like up by
So,
Amarillo up there. It's very
and the
extensive.
fact that we're going to talk about this aircraft a little bit later made
Yeah,
it
it's cool.
appropriate to select this background.
Perfect. Do you ever see the windmill when they pass on I-10?
No, but I've seen them elsewhere.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty amazing. I mean, they just
Yeah.
the trailers are uber long, and apparently what
Oh,
they
you
do,
mean being carried
yeah, being
on the,
carried.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, I
yeah,
have.
yeah.
The blades.
Yeah, the blades.
Yes,
Sorry, I should say that properly.
yes.
And apparently they're changing the blades. The
Okay.
older technology, and so that's why there was quite a bit of them a little while back.
Yeah.
All right. So and I have a picture taken last year sometime of a flight that we wanted to take, Kushro. This is, and I'm using
Blinked
the
and it
card
was
there. I can
gone.
see that. Huh?
We blinked and it was gone.
I know.
It didn't even survive a year.
Yeah, it really went. This is a Ethiopian 787. Is that the 8 or the 9 that they brought here? Hopefully
I
the 8.
think it was the 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's parked waiting. I think what it did, it used to come in one day and it left the next day. So then they'd wait at
That
it.
alone was a killer. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Such a bad
aircraft
use of space.
utilization is shot to
But this is the
nothing.
one that did to Togo and then Addis, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so we wanted to do that. We're actually going to do it in December last year, December 2019 into
Right.
2020. But that didn't quite work out. And now the flight's gone. It's all your fault,
Yep.
Christian.
Blame COVID.
I know. It's just life is so different now. But so that's the background that we have. And one thing to remember is that if you go to YouTube, youtube.com/cruise and altitude, you can actually find the episode. I've started to re-upload the video versions of the episode, so you can watch them there if you want. And the audio versions, you can go to passrider.com/WHIT, and you can see all the episodes there, all 65 so far. This is number 66. Actually, there's 64. One's still missing. We're still going to upload that one. And you can also go to Spotify and Google and Amazon. Just search for our names, Kerwin McKenzie or Kusher Park, or search for What's Happening in Travel. You can find us there. And leave a review, give us feedback. We actually have some feedback. We're going to talk about it as the episode goes on. But first, we're going to go to Canada. And as you know, the 737 MAX is, or whatever they're calling it now, is flying again. And I don't think
I don't know if we're ever going to stop talking about this plane,
Oh, never.
which may be a good thing or a bad thing,
I know,
depending
right?
on which perspective you take.
Well, you know, there's a lot of them sitting out there. So if you guys need
Yes.
a cheapo 737, you can get one. And tell us what Flair Airlines, which I always thought was a really
And clearly
weird
Flair
name.
did that. So this was the reason it got my attention is that Flair Airlines is a tiny, relatively speaking, ULCC based in Canada.
Mhm.
They have hubs in Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Toronto, and they mainly fly to sun destinations in south of Canada,
Yeah.
mainly. But they started out, or they had three 737-800s. And then all of a sudden, they announced this massive order for 13 737 MAX 8s, which I'm sure they got a terrific deal
Yep.
because Boeing has had about 1,000 cancellations of 737 MAX orders, and they had several hundred that were built with nowhere to go. So I think this order seems to be part of that backlog that has
Yeah.
been slowly but surely dwindling, because the deliveries for these new planes start almost imminently. So they're all configured for 189 seats in one class, economy, and
That's really
Flair
fascinating.
joins. Well, yeah, but not out of the ordinary though. Not 200 that
Yeah, that's about right.
Ryanair is doing, but it joins Air Canada, WestJet, and Sunwing as all operators of the 737 MAX.
Okay.
So, so yeah, it struck me that Canada is one of the few countries, I think, where almost all the airlines have 737. So, and the MAX.
Well,
Um,
it's right across the border, so they're supporting North American aviation.
yes, this is true. This is true. So,
Yeah, not to
uh,
mention, they got a sweet deal.
oh, I'm sure they do. They plan to have 50 aircraft in their fleet within 5 years.
Yeah.
But I guess with um, all leisure traffic from Canada going south shut down, they're going to use these aircraft on their domestic routes, like all the others.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
because I was reading that Air Canada Rouge, which is the equivalent arm of Air Canada, has completely shut down until
Yes,
March.
they have, which makes sense
Because,
because they just do all the snowbird routes, and
right,
they've stopped flying. The country has closed its international borders, right?
essentially, yes.
Yeah.
I
So no
think they're
flights to
allowing
Mexico,
certain
no flights to the
international
Caribbean.
flights, right. And that's one of the main destinations for a lot of these airlines.
Yeah.
And based on a new Government of Canada regulation that was apparently instituted with relatively little advance notice, a lot of carriers just shut down their Caribbean flights almost overnight.
And it
So,
one of the reasoning behind that is that they had a few flights that arrived from the Caribbean, and
right, with infections.
with infections, plus people just aren't adhering to the
Taking this
guidelines.
seriously. We
Yeah.
can talk about this till we go blue in the face with people.
And I know that so the strains of the virus have come from the UK, come to the Caribbean, and then people who are in the Caribbean mix with those people from the UK, and then they go back to Canada and take it with them. And so but I don't think that strain has showed up in Canada yet. But what they're trying to do is to stop it from happening.
Hmm.
Um,
So I believe at least Air Canada Rouge has shut down until sometime the middle of March or in
yeah,
that time frame,
and I
which is
assume,
pretty substantial.
oh yeah, I assume Air Transat is going to do the same thing.
Yes, they have.
Yeah,
Yes, as has WestJet, and now we find out Flair.
yeah. So yeah, we have a pause again. But the good thing is I did notice that they said that the rate of infection has, at least in the US anyway,
Has
has
gone
gone
down
down.
in North America, I
Yeah.
believe.
The deaths are still haven't really moved, but
They've come down a little bit, but still fairly substantial.
yeah. So I guess
So,
once the infections are of but they also report that when they look at the numbers, every time after a major event, the numbers spike again.
go
So
up.
expecting it to go
Yep.
up again in a few weeks because of the Super Bowl weekend that we currently have in the US today, this weekend.
Mhm.
Um,
We will never learn.
no, so come on, people. I know you want to get back to normal, but can we just Can we just behave? I want to go flying, for crying out loud, and not worry about it. All right. Jeez. Um, so I see my friends flying all over the place, and they're showing some pretty good meals on a lot of these flights. Like Qatar, they're like, well, it's almost like it was before now. There's no, apart from, somebody has a mask on, who's serving you, and they have gloves and stuff on, which they should have had in the first place, Krisha. Because you're serving people food, for crying out loud. One thing COVID has done is it's make us just step back and go, oh my God, we were so we were so weird when we did things before. And so Lufthansa, don't want to be left behind, because everybody else have figured out, oh yeah, we can actually make airline meal service a lot better today. So what are they doing?
So this seems to be a new trend, at least in Europe, because for those of us in North America, we have long since given up on expecting any meals, uh, free meals domestically. And
Snack boxes.
there's a lot of pretty good food you have to buy on board on almost all airlines, regardless of whether they're legacy, hub and spoke, or LCC. And after British Airways announced that they were doing away essentially with their free meals on their short and medium haul, um, now Lufthansa joins the club.
Of course.
And I'm actually going to miss it, because now apparently even I will not be able to get a cup of coffee on intra-Europe Lufthansa flights. And
Just bring your own coffee.
yeah, it's not the same.
Go to
But
the lounge,
anyway,
drink before your flight.
it's not the same.
You got to change, Kusho. You got to change.
I guess I do. Yes, but the Lufthansa coffee was always very good, nice and strong. But I'm digressing.
I won't miss anything.
So yes, because you have a beer at breakfast time.
Well, oh, come on. We know, Kusho, I haven't had alcohol in a year.
Okay.
Anyway, carry on.
So they have partnered with this company based in Munich called Dean and David, which sounds very much like something that sounds very similar in the US. I think
Harry
it's
and
Dean
David?
and DeLuca.
Dean and DeLuca.
Yeah. But this is a Munich-based company. It's, as they call it, a young gastronomy company. And what they are looking for was healthy food, high quality ingredients, and a sustainable nutrition with a sense of responsibility and environmentally friendly packaging. Now, this should have been done a hell of a long time ago.
The marketing up this stuff is so ridiculous, Krisha. It's like, you just giving me food. Who cares what it comes in? You're supposed to figure that out. Oh, sorry.
So they're available on all, or they will be available on all Lufthansa flights greater than 60 minutes. I always thought that LSG Sky Chefs was their catering partner, but then I discovered that in 2019, late, they sold it to Gate Gourmet, which is a Swiss company. Well, they sold the European arm to Gate Gourmet.
Oh, okay.
So LSG Sky Chefs is still a separate entity in other parts of the world outside of Europe. So this company in Munich, Dean and David, is now going to be responsible to prepare essential components of food like salads, bowls, wraps, sandwiches, and things like that. And then they're going to stick with Lufthansa's partnership with this other Munich company called Dalmir, I believe it's pronounced, for beverages, confectionaries, and patisseries.
Okay.
They're also going to include a special coffee that comes from the Dano region of Ethiopia, which is in the central part of the country, because Dalmir has apparently a huge investment in that part of the country, which a lot of support for the locals. So they're going to feature that on Lufthansa flights.
So you get better coffee.
Say that again?
You get better coffee. You just have to pay for it.
Well, I'm guessing so, but as I said before, Lufthansa should be paying me for this, but the coffee on board that airline is always very, very good.
Well, too late now. It's
So,
gone.
yeah. But for instance, a bottle of juice will be €3, as will a cup of coffee, tea, or hot chocolate, which I
Yeah,
think is a little bit pricey.
I'm gonna
But
pass on that.
again,
Kusha, that's where you have a lounge card.
yes, I know. But a bottle of water and a small chocolate surprise, as they call it, will still be free on Lufthansa.
Oh, okay, so that's good,
So,
right?
yes. And it's going to be offered in when the summer timetable rolls through, which should be in the May, June, July timeframe. And you can only place your orders on board. So unlike British Airways, you really can't pre-order before you board the aircraft. Like 24 hours before departure, you can't do that. You have to do it on board.
Oh, okay.
But as I said, US airlines have been doing this for years. So I guess the Europeans are now catching up. I just hope the Asians don't do it.
Nah, Asia's a different culture. I don't think they will do that. I don't think
So
they will actually buy the stuff. But I mean, when I fly, I don't really buy the onboard food. When
I
Norwegian,
don't either because it's
when
sort of expensive.
yeah, it is expensive. I mean, it's another. Well, when you think about it, it is actually
It's
about the same
between 2
price.
and 12 euros each of the
Um,
range of prices for the entrees.
Yeah, but it's usually the same price as what you'd pay if you bought it at the airport. And so I have I mean, you and I, we have a lounge card, so we just use the lounges, and you eat before your flight.
But
And
it's still,
when
I
you get
think
where
there's
you're
nothing
going,
like eating a meal on board an aircraft.
you just like to eat food on a plane, Kusha, which is okay.
Yes, I do.
Which is okay.
I do.
Kusha do enjoy his onboard meals. I've flown them many times, and he totally does enjoy the thing. Um, I mean, I'm okay with whatever they serve. Do just
And
five
it's a 1 hour,
yeah,
2 hour flight for
just
most of Europe.
just 5 business
Suck it
days.
up.
You'll be fine. You know what it
So,
is? The problem is that there's so much when you have delays and stuff like that, you just get hungry because you were waiting and you can't go get
mhm.
something to eat because you don't know if the flight's going to depart. And so when you get on board, you're like, oh, I'm so hungry now. And even though the flight's only an hour, you're hungry because you were waiting 2 hours before to try to get stuff.
Yeah,
So get a lounge card.
there will be some.
That's what I say. Get a
There will
lounge
be
card.
some flights longer than an hour, but I'm amazed it took them so long to figure this out.
Yeah, they were wasting a lot of money. And then
But
some of the
and
meals
now
were oh, now you can
I
what?
can see Air France doing the same thing
Um, yeah,
after
but see,
BA and
the culture might be different though. I can't see French people paying for bread. Speaking of that, I was on a flight. I think it was actually a United flight years and years ago, and I was going to Paris, and I was with this guy who's French, and I think we're sitting in business class, and they brought the bread out, and he was like, "That is not bread."
oh god,
And he
really?
refused to eat it. I thought it was really good, but he was like, no. That was
I'm
just
sure the flight attendants were not amused.
no, they weren't amused at all. But he refused to eat it. And I felt bad eating it because it tastes okay to me, but he's French and the French knows their breads.
That they do.
One of the
So
things that I've always wanted to do, and I finally did it, was when I go to Paris, go buy a baguette and stick it under my arm, because that's how the French got their bread around. And it was so cool doing that. And one thing I did too, I went
take a
to,
shower before you did that.
well, yes, I did. I always shower every day. It's a Jamaican American thing, I guess. And who came up with saying that about the French? That is such a weird stigma. I don't know where people get all that stuff from. We should find out the rumor for that. But anyway, the French people are gonna be really mad at us now. The I went to, you might have been with me. Might have been when we went and we bought bread at the Carrefour, and we brought some
We
cheese.
do that all the time, though, right?
Yeah,
And
and
we
then we
used to
went
go
down
for
went down
Oakland.
by the Champs-Élysées, and they had bread and stuff, and we ate it there, which is a big thing in the summertime.
Cheese.
Yeah, they buy bread, they buy cheese, and they buy some wine, and then they go sit on the banks of the Seine across from Notre Dame,
Hmm.
and then you have it right there. It's a big thing. Speaking of Notre Dame, what are they doing with that? Is it being rebuilt or
They're
what's?
renovating it. It's going to be several years before it's ready.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I haven't heard anything about it, so
So
I was wondering. All right.
no,
Uh,
I believe they had Christmas services in 2020
did
in
they?
there for the
Oh,
first time since the fire.
inside? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was open to the public, but they did have the choir and all that there.
Oh, okay. Good deal.
So,
All right.
so yes, no more Lufthansa coffee on board
Well,
for me, at
they'll
least.
still have it, for sure. Come on, you have to buy it and try it. It's only €3, right? So
Fine, I'll get you to pay for it.
there you go. Save up your euros, save up your US dollars. So that's like maybe what, $3.50 or something weird like that. I don't know what the rates are these days. Um let's see. Oh, um so one of the things that I was talking to a friend of mine about this recently. Um People, like, everyone is up in arms about health passports and things like that now, and they're like, "Oh, why do we need that?" I'm like, "You do realize that we already had that. This is not new. There are countries where you need to take malaria tests. You need to take it's the male guy. You need to take yellow fever tests and things like that." Sorry, the dog is barking. And so, because you need to take all these tests, there's a place that you have to put them. And normally it's on this yellow card that you get, and they write all your vaccinations and you give it your passport and you show it. So now when people are talking about you need COVID test, COVID vaccine and stuff like that to fly, everybody's up in arms about it. And I'm like, this is not new, people. You just because you have the internet and you just learned about it doesn't mean it's new. So I say this because Etihad is coming up with something, because
Well,
now
they're
it's
actually testing.
electronic, right? And so
Yes,
what's
on
Etihad
your
trying to do?
phone.
Yeah,
So I think this may be a good thing. I just wish there weren't so many competing versions of it
always, because everybody
because,
wants the money.
right, and that's just going to cause a lot of confusion because from what I had read, the IATA one
Mm-hmm.
seemed to be the most comprehensive because most airlines in the world belong to IATA and it seemed to fulfill all the requirements of the different countries in the world. But now I found out that there's another one called the International Chamber of Commerce AOK Pass. Now, just to back up a little bit, Etihad is already testing the IATA Pass, the travel pass. So now they're also doing this ICC one on their flights to Europe, to Paris. Um, this is, as I said, in collaboration with the International Chamber of Commerce and with International SOS and um, the SGS group to create, as they say, a digital, secure, and portable copy of medical records. It's launched in collaboration with this company called MedAir, which is
Okay.
an international SOS company. And it gives you a place to store all your test results on your mobile device, which is then verified with, as they called it, a global incorruptible blockchain-based network to ensure your results are valid and in line with government regulations. For this Paris flight from Abu Dhabi, you're required to have a negative PCR test before you board, and then you're tested again on arrival in France. They've trialed this in 2020 on flights to Pakistan from Abu Dhabi. And then Alitalia has been doing the same thing on their Rome and New York City flights, followed by the Italy to Cairo and Abu Dhabi. So
Mhm.
they have tested this sufficiently, but now they've actually implemented it on Abu Dhabi, Paris for now. I believe Singapore also uses it for Indonesia and Malaysian entries. And it's planned to be operational at about 170 airports worldwide in, as they call it, the near future. And it's one of several, as we pointed out earlier, these vaccine passports that are expected to be in widespread use in the very near future.
Yeah, it's
So,
it's just money, because sure, everyone is trying to do it. So because even because like you said, IATA
because,
already has the yellow card that everybody uses.
right, but yes, but this is, I mean, it is convenient to have it electronically stored.
Well, yeah, I
God
mean,
help you if you lose your phone, though, or
um,
if you run
well,
out
you're
of
hosed.
battery.
You're hosed. It's just like if you lost your passport, you're hosed.
Yeah,
So they need, I mean, if you lose your phone, you have to get another phone, or you have to figure out a way to be able to get to your information. I see, and this is the one they said information is going to be stored in a phone, which is stupid. The information should be stored in a database somewhere that's accessible even without your phone.
but then that raises the hackles of privacy, folks
Yeah,
who
but
don't want
dude,
this information out on a public domain. So it's
you
like
and
damned if you
I,
do and damned if you don't.
yeah, but not everybody has a phone, Krisha. As much as these people think
Well,
everybody have a phone, everybody does not have a phone, and everybody does
if
not
you're
have a.
traveling internationally, you better be damn sure you do.
No, not everybody has a phone. And not everybody has a phone that has the data and all that kind of stuff. So I think what we're doing, that we're coming up with something for rich people. Not everybody has a phone. I know it sounds weird, but not everybody have a phone. Um, I when
I
you
would say
go,
99% of the
no, I
flying
don't even think
public,
it's that high. I mean, yeah, I mean, the older people
the
do it.
international flying public.
Mm, I think we should go to other countries and see if everybody has a phone.
Yeah,
Not everybody has a phone, and sometimes you can have a phone, but it's not a phone with
smartphone. It could
smartphone.
be a
Correct.
flip
It's
phone, whatever.
a phone with you can call somebody or you can text somebody. So whatever they come up
What
with,
a phone was meant to be.
yes, whatever they come up with, they should still think about. So if I don't have a phone, what happens? You're not going to let me fly because I don't have a phone? Well, that's stupid. Because
It would
I
be
can
less
access,
convenient.
well, I can access the data someplace else. It's like saying, when you used to fly, you don't need a mobile boarding pass to fly. You can print it out on a piece of paper and bring it
Yeah.
home. So that's
No,
the
but
type of stuff they have to think about. Because not everybody. I mean, yes, in this side of the world, everybody has a phone, but that's not the case everywhere else. So
so
we need to.
no, I'm really curious what would happen to someone if they've lost their phone, left it on the plane, left it wherever, or it crashed and wouldn't charge, or you are out of
Well,
luck.
and exactly. So, and that happens all the time. So if that
Yep.
happens, they need to be able, they have my passport details. They need to be able to swipe that, go up somewhere. It's like when you're coming into the US and they swipe your passport, it picks up all the data on you. I don't need my phone because you have my details.
But then
So,
that passport chip has to be um, enabled to accept all this additional information, right?
well, not necessarily the
And
chip
it could be pretty
because it's not being
complex.
stored on your on your passport. If it's being
Right,
stored in your passport, then it has to be written. But normally you can't write to those. You can only read
right,
typically from that
correct.
document, right?
But who knows if that changes in the near future?
Yeah, but if that changes, you have to reissue the passports because you have to physically
Yes, yes,
change
yeah,
that chip
yep.
that sits inside the passport. And yes, there's a chip inside most passports. That's how come you can cross borders by just scanning your
So,
passport on these things. Um, yeah, we need
so
more
I
information.
think it's going to get very confusing for people to decide which one do I get,
Yeah,
these mobile passports.
can we just go back to the yellow cards? And who's gonna put, if I have a yellow card, like I have one for Ghana from 2014 maybe, and I think it's still valid. Like who's gonna put that in there in the system? Am I gonna be the one to put it in my phone, or how are you gonna trust me to make sure it's
Hmm.
right? You know?
But
And when I go to get it from the doctor, how is the doctor gonna put that into my like how is the information entered? Because if the doctor is going to enter the information into some system and then my phone picks it up, then IATA can connect to that system, or whatever country should be able to
yes,
connect to that system. Because you cannot trust us to put the information in. Because yeah, people say, yeah,
no,
I'm
absolutely
vaccinated and
not.
I'm not. Right. That's why we have the cards. I agree it needs to be digital, but I also agree that because the one we talked about before was the one that you said that it's only going to be on your phone. And like you said, if your
They're
battery
all
dies,
moving towards that. They're
yeah,
all moving towards that.
if your battery dies when you're on the plane, which happens all the time, you lose a
Yep.
phone. I've dropped my phone at the start of a trip. And so what
Hmm.
happens when that happens? So it's like, yeah, yeah, it's just stupid. Um, they should still take my paper version. All right.
But you don't get a paper version anymore, right?
Well, that's the
It's
problem.
all electronic.
That is a problem. We need to
So,
think this through. We need to think it through for smaller countries. The same thing with the vaccine. The smaller countries are, people are not going to get vaccinated.
but who cares about the smaller countries?
Apparently, nobody
Since when
does,
have people cared about the smaller countries?
except when they need to go for vacation there, and they're like, "Oh, look at me! I'm in country, really, really tiny country."
Leisure destinations, perhaps,
Yeah, they need to.
but
Figure all that stuff out. Well, even in the Caribbean, there's still you still see these stories about countries negotiating for vaccines and stuff like that for the
mhm.
tiny places in the Caribbean. Um, country's a weird one, Kusher. All right, well, let's move to aircraft. It's all about Boeing, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So when Boeing made the Dash 8, the Dash 9, the Dash 10, it's all the Maxes,
Don't forget the Dash 7.
and the Dash 7. So it was all the Max 7, 8, 9, and 10. The 10 is the one that Ryanair was going to get. Was that it?
Yes, though they still want it.
They still want
So
it.
they
Well,
rolled it out.
yeah, what's going on now?
So they rolled it out in 2019
Uh-huh.
after putting it into putting the design, freezing the design, or what they thought was freezing the design in 2011. So it's almost already been like 10 years. So it was supposed to be in service this year, and then it was pushed to next year. Sorry, in 2020, and it was pushed to this year. Now, Boeing has pushed it back to 2023. There isn't really a lot of explanation as to why,
Yeah.
but my guess is that they are doing a complete revamp of this aircraft because this is the closest competitor that Boeing has to the Airbus 321, the LR, and the XLR, which threaten to take over the entire mid-range airline market with that
Yeah, but they
airframe.
won't for sure because they don't have enough airplanes to cover the market. But anyway, carry on.
Say that again?
They never will because they can't manufacture enough
True.
airplanes for
That's
everybody.
exactly right.
But
That's
carry on.
exactly right.
Yeah.
But the aircraft is outselling the 737 MAX 10 by an order of 5-1. So this aircraft is clearly not adequate enough for a lot of airlines, even though it does have a fair number of orders from airlines like United, Lion, and Ryanair. So my guess is that Boeing is doing a complete rethink of this plane, even though they really don't have a lot of time to do it. But it seems like they want to get this right
Mm-hmm.
from the get-go instead of having to do um, a retrofit or whatever. Because already this plane is different from the other Maxes in that it has a longer undercarriage, it has longer wheels to be able to take the bigger engines. So it will be interesting to see what the big changes are to the 737 MAX 10, but I guess we will have to wait at least a couple of years to find out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Because the LR version of the 321 is already out, but the XLR comes out a little bit later.
Right.
So um, they figured that, I mean, I guess that gave Boeing the idea that it did have a little time to tinker with the MAX 10 to make it at least a little bit of a competition
Yeah.
with Airbus, but we'll see what happens. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Because as you mentioned that the XLRs and the A321, did you see the new Mint Studio
yes, I did.
that JetBlue has? Um,
Yes.
what do you think of it?
I wasn't quite sure, not that I've flown in Mint class. I don't know why they needed a new one because the previous one looked pretty good, even though this is now enclosed. This is like,
They
it's
have
like
the
a
door thing.
capsule almost.
Yeah.
You have your own private quarters. And for a narrow body, that's pretty substantial because they're going to debut it, I believe, on the flights to London, which will be
Yeah.
on the 321s.
Now, when I saw it, it's a single cabin.
It's a
It's a single cabin, so there's no
it's a
economy class.
one-in-one configuration,
Yeah, it's just all Mint.
and it's all that herringbone.
Yeah.
It's
So
all
I'm
no
like,
in front, in front.
no, I don't think there's anything else in it.
No, 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 no. Mm-mm.
Right, there isn't any economy
It's
class.
only in the front. There is an economy class.
Well, I thought so,
Yes,
but I
there
kept
is.
looking. I go, I didn't see anything that suggests that there's any other part of the plane. That plane isn't very big, and it's holding.
Mm-mm.
They have 24 of them already in there. So I'm like,
The 321.
yes.
Yeah, that's 12 rows.
Well, that's
So
most of the plane.
not, no, I wouldn't say most of the plane.
Yes, that's most of the
So,
plane. um,
but
so I mean, it was kind of I didn't understand it. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. So where's the rest of the plane? And and they clearly didn't mention it
they
because
didn't
as
mention
I said,
economy. No,
no, they mentioned nothing about
correct.
economy in it.
Yeah.
And I thought I kept looking. I read it 2 times, 3 times, and I go, I don't see what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Maybe this is it. Um, but I still think London, Heathrow, London on, I'm sorry, Heathrow, New York, London, or Boston, London is shouldn't be happening. There's
Well,
too
we
much,
find out.
there's too much competition on that
Yeah,
market
there
already,
is.
and it's like, okay, fine, JetBlue. So you're flying there now. Okay, okay, good. Plus, with that new Mint thing, um, they've completely gotten rid of half of their competition. I mean, half of their customers, because they're a low cost airline. Although maybe they're doing like what's the other one that started the low cost? Oh, WestJet started low cost and now it's no longer low
Yeah.
cost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I didn't understand that, and maybe if someone's listening and understand what's going
As
on.
I said, the current product is not that old.
No, it's
I
not.
mean,
They said they wanted to do something different. You know, the usual, they wanted, it's the marketing things, right? We have the best this, we have the best that.
right. But in this day
Airline
and
like
age
this.
where airlines are bleeding money to roll this out, I guess they had it the
They had
investment
planned
already
before.
in.
Yeah, they had it planned before. They had the seats set up and all that
So,
kind of thing. But
but anyway, for 2023, it's going to be interesting because it's going to be when Boeing has two new products out. This is the MAX 10, hopefully,
yes,
and the 777-9, which has also been delayed about 2 years.
uh,
So, um,
yeah, but also they're doing this new NMA thing. What's going on with that?
yes. So that was the next topic we were going to talk
Yeah.
about. The new mid-sized aircraft, because Boeing made a big deal about it a couple of years ago, and they were discussing it what seemed interminably with airlines. They just couldn't pull the trigger and launch it. Well, it turns out it's a good thing they didn't, because now the analysts are claiming that it was too big. It was initially designed to carry about 270 passengers,
Mm-hmm.
um, with a 4,000 to 5,000 nautical mile, which is about 7,500 to 9,000 kilometers, to essentially replace the 757 and the 767, possibly in two versions, one as a wide body with two aisles and one as a narrow body.
Okay.
But now what the analysts want is a 220, 230 seat max capacity aircraft, designed to replace the 757 only. But everything else has to be new. So the capacity should stay the same as a regular 757, but everything from the engineering to the design and whatever has to be new. So Boeing has started specifications on this new NMA. They're calling it NMA V2 for version 2. And they're already apparently talking to a lot of carriers about it. And the reason they have cut back from the 270 seat capacity is because that comes awfully close to the seating configuration of a typical 787-8.
Right.
And they don't want any cannibalization because 787 is Boeing's cash cow. But that order book has also been stagnating for the 787. It's just that wide bodies are in a slump right now. Nobody wants them because there's just no demand for them.
Exactly.
So Boeing absolutely has to keep its sales pipeline for the 787 intact without any sort of encroachment from a newer aircraft type.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the reasons why um, Boeing has gone back to the drawing board. And they desperately need a product between the 737 MAX and the 787. Now, Airbus, with the 321 Neo, the XLR, and the Airbus 330-800, the gap between those is really very small. So they have a pretty comprehensive product range for all different passenger capacities. So it's Boeing who's the one that really needs to bridge that difference between the 737 series, the largest version of that, and the 787, which is their smallest wide body. And that's the reason why the urgency for Boeing to have something in response to the Airbus 321 XLR is getting stronger by the day or year, as it turns out.
Yeah.
So they expect that if they have this aircraft frozen by 2022, um, they could launch it and have it ready for delivery in the 2027, 2029 timeframe, which would also give the XLR a run for its money. At the same time, aircraft engine technology is really not um, expected to advance a great deal in 2 years. So that's another reason why I guess Boeing has launched this refurbished, if you will, NMA concept aircraft.
Okay, it's about time they got their act together.
But
Because they've been that's been going on for on and
ages,
off for a little while, right?
yes.
All right. Well,
So
at least it's somewhat good news coming out of Boeing, right? So the
I'm
question
sure they
is,
will do a good job because hopefully they have learned their lesson from the Max debacle.
no, where's it going to be built?
Yeah, the noon.
Carolina, man, it's going to the.
No, I don't think so. There's no space
I don't know.
in South Carolina.
I don't know.
So
Yeah, that's one to be seen. All right, so we're going down the news alley, and because of the new strains of COVID or the new strain of COVID that were found, I think I said it was in South Africa and the UK, the countries are going in lockdown again. And the next one up is Israel. So what's going on with them?
this is a pretty, I'd never heard of a country doing this actually. Recently, in the past, yes, but Israel recently, overnight in mid-January, they announced that they were banning all commercial airline traffic into and out of Israel. The only exceptions were overflights, cargo flights, and emergency aircraft. They've also excluded private planes uh, with passengers for medical purposes, for essential workers, movement of citizens to their residences, and funerals of close relatives. So all traffic is shut down for about 2 weeks until the end of January. But that has come and gone. And the country is still shut down until possibly the middle of February. Because I was checking to see if they had reinstated flights, but they're all still pretty much zeroed out. All flights to and from Israel.
Yeah, and I did see something that said it may go until the end of the month, but I wasn't sure.
Okay. Because they have been they are the leading country to vaccinate their citizens. So they're hoping for herd immunity pretty soon.
Yeah.
But as of now, there is no travel to Israel on a commercial flight.
Well, there you have it.
I guess that's the way to do it. But when you're a small country, it's a lot easier to do than when you're a larger.
I mean, Australia have done that. New Zealand have done that.
Yes.
I saw something that said
But Australia is still allowing flights in with very, very limited passenger loads.
Yeah.
But Israel has just said no.
No, we're done. Yeah, because even Australia, I think I saw someone said they were having some cases in Western Australia.
Yes.
And so they've locked it down. And people are bitching about it. I'm like, well, they're trying to control it. Now, meanwhile, I haven't heard anything about Taiwan. I guess life is good in Taiwan.
Yeah, you don't hear anything about them. So, or China for that matter, or South Korea.
Yeah. Well, I think I heard that South Korea did get things under, I guess they have things under control. Otherwise, we would hear differently, right?
Yeah.
All right. Testing. We're back to testing again. One of the issues that we have is that we don't yet have easy ways to test. Like the only reason why they say you have to have a test within 72 hours is because it takes that long to get the results back. And so if we need to really figure out testing that works, so literally I can go to a cash machine and buy a testing kit. So who's doing that? Or a machine?
Well, now you can at Oakland International Airport in California.
Can I get one at my neighborhood Walgreens?
I believe it's coming.
And is it like $5 instead of 140?
Yep. These are 130 to 150. And they're touchless kiosks at the airport in both terminals 1 and 2 for the PCR testing, which is the most comprehensive yet. So this is not the rapid test.
Okay.
And it also includes uh, return service by FedEx to the lab, where it will be assayed and your results transmitted to you via your mobile phone from a company called uh, Wellness for Humanity. And the actual machines, the vending machines, are produced by a company called Swift. And this is part of Oakland's proposal to make traveling to Hawaii easier, because Hawaii requires PCR tests before you leave your origin city
Or
and
or
enter,
you can do the quarantine.
or you can do the quarantine. Correct. So this is a way to avoid the quarantine,
Right.
which is, I believe, 2 weeks, or is it 10 days? I forget.
It's
No, I
10
believe it's
days.
2 weeks.
It may be
2
14
weeks.
days. Just figure 14 days.
Yeah, and Hawaii is not exactly cheap.
It's
So
not.
the
Never
last thing you
been.
want to do there is be stuck in your room for 14 days.
Yeah.
So, but I just thought this was interesting that um, I'm
Uh,
surprised it hasn't come out earlier. But
well,
vending
but
machines dispensing COVID test kits.
it's it's always funny when they say touchless. That's baloney. A lot of people using the word touchless. I gotta pick the thing up. I gotta open it, and it was gonna just spit it out, and I catch it in my hand.
No, but I guess that the kit is sterile. But
Yeah, the
I'm not
touchless.
exactly sure how that you get it to come out of the machine without touching the machine. But
I
maybe
guess you
there's a way.
talk to it.
I haven't seen a picture of it.
Yeah, a lot of these people talk about touch tests. It's like when I checked in at the Marriott in Denver. They're like, "Oh yeah, we have touch tests," and the guy goes, "May I see your credit card?" And I showed it to him. He goes, "May I swipe your credit card?" I'm like, "No, you said touchless." And it's like, well, which part of touching my credit card is touchless? So yeah, a lot of these companies are just weird. They like to use these things because they're good at marketing, but in reality, it
Yes.
doesn't really happen. So I guess I had a question about this is, so how do I take the swab? Do I stick it up my nose?
Yes. It's a nasal swab. Yes.
Yeah, but we know that people are not going to stick it far enough. So how is that working?
But I don't think you need to go far enough. All you need to be is in your nasal passages.
Well, you've had a few, right? How far have
Yes.
they gone?
Well, lately I had someone else do it, and they went pretty high.
Exactly.
Yes. I mean, when you do it yourself, yes, you go high, but not this high.
Right. And so are the results going to come back negative because you didn't have enough? Like how do you know that
Um,
you've given enough of a sample?
I think if you don't have any sample, you see, it's a PCR test, so you really need a microscope, beyond a microscopic, smaller than a microscopic amount of material.
Yeah, but how do you
But
know?
if you don't have anything, I'm
Yeah,
sure that would trigger something, some sort of warning that people could just dip it in water and submit it to try and cheat the system if you wanted to.
yeah, well, yeah. So I don't
But
I don't know about these at home things because I don't trust most people.
yeah,
Um,
but
you know, come on, people get letters to say that their pony is comfort animals. So there.
but I guess you have to rely at least partly, on trust. But you're
But yeah,
right about
yeah,
that.
yeah. You do have to
If
trust
someone
people.
wants to cheat the system, they will find a way
Yeah.
to cheat the system.
But even if a regular person, right, who's just taking it, I'm just and I guess I assume that they've thought about this, like how much sample is it actually taking?
Yeah.
Is it getting the right amount? And I assume there's something on the little swab thing that says, "Yep, I've gotten enough sample." Yeah,
No, not. Well,
Yeah.
not to my knowledge,
Okay. So,
but yeah, you're right. I don't know what would stop someone from just taking the swab and putting it directly back into the little test tube to mail back to FedEx via FedEx
well, I
instead of
guess,
actually taking the test,
well, I guess
putting it up
something
their
has to be
nose.
on it, right? Because they could tell that there is no human DNA on it.
Yes, yes,
So, they have
yes,
to, you have to do something with it,
correct.
make sure it works. I'm assuming maybe it changes color. I did see that they did have one
You
where,
see, you have reference samples as well.
oh,
So
to at least make
yeah,
it. And do you, yeah, I don't know. We just need to come up with the spit test needs to work.
yeah.
Yeah. Or
But that's another thing, though, right?
I saw, yeah, I
Another
saw
thing.
something I thought something where in China they're actually doing a test,
Anal.
a anal test.
Yeah. Now, why would you need to do that? I don't understand.
Well, you can see then, Kusha, you know exactly that you got a proper sample, right? you, there is no if, ands, or but about but wrong. I guess I'm a comedian today. But you know you got a sample. It's good.
Can you imagine the privacy issues there?
Well, it's no different, Kusha. I
No,
mean,
it is very different,
why you
right?
sticking up my nose or my butt? It doesn't matter. We
If
take
they,
injections in our butts too.
yeah, but would you like someone else to stick something up your butt?
My doctor does it every year.
Look, we're veering a little too close to being risque.
That's pretty funny. But I mean, it's
I don't understand why you have to do that.
yeah, I didn't really get, but I
Plus the
get,
cleanliness issues. Oh
well,
God, I
and
would
also,
not want to be a tester there.
well, maybe because people are winching, about the nose thing, so I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe they
So
found that they get more reliable samples from your stool rather than from your mucus. I don't know.
mm,
I'm not a scientist. All right, so on a more pleasant note, um, so people are flying, and the airlines have no money, right? So the airlines want your money, and they realize that people want to travel, but and this is not something new. People want to travel, but they'd rather pay for stuff over time because they don't have all the money to pay up front. So they've come up with these book now, pay later schemes, and Kusha's going to give us some more details on what's going on
so this
with
was a
that.
very interesting article in USA Today. Now, after talking to you, I found out that you've actually used some of these,
Mm-hmm.
and they've always been in the system. It's just that post or during this pandemic era, they've taken on a much more pronounced role, especially in travel, where you can book a trip now and pay later. And these two companies, one of them is called Uplift and the other one's called Affirm, have announced that their average daily transaction volume, for instance, for Uplift, has gone up by over 30% month over month in December and close to 35% month over month in January. So what it is that these two companies, they cater to very similar markets, but Uplift, for instance, has partnered with what it claims are more than 150 airlines, cruise lines, vacation packages, and resorts to offer a budgeting tool to customers to spread out purchases rather than putting it all on a credit card for immediate payment in one installment. Um, it's supposed to be a more economical way of arranging for payment in that the interest rates are not as outrageous as credit cards, for instance. And Affirm, which is another third party financing site, um, also caters to customers willing to pay in installments for fitness equipment, electronics, furniture, and now travel. So Each customer is put on an installment package plan that is set beforehand with or without a low interest rate. So it offers, as I said, significant advantages over credit card sites. And there is no refund. Really, that's the one thing that you do have to worry about. Um, and they've also got a lot of competition from airlines who are doing the same thing. So, one advantage of these third party financing sites is that if you get this book now, pay later plan with an airline, you do not get your cash back. You get a voucher. So, in essence, you get credit, which you don't have with these third party sites. They've also had different travel agencies, especially to South America and Africa, where you can pay a deposit on your trip and secure yourself a spot with the deal and have to do nothing until a specific number of days before departure, typically 30 or 21. Um, for instance, there's this company called Intrepid Travel. Then there's another one called G Adventures, and another one called Backroads,
Mm-hmm.
which is supposedly an upscale tour operator
Yeah, they're all big travel
that
companies.
has these plans on offer for a lot of travel. So it's apparently to cater to the newly budget conscious among us who have been impacted by
Yeah.
um,
Funny.
the pandemic.
So I think USA Today just wanted to um, get people.
Fill their columns. No,
Yeah.
it was, I mean, it's become more important. Yes,
Well,
it was
yeah, but
always
it's not
there, but
new.
more and more people are using it.
Yeah, but it's not new, for sure. It's been around for a long time. I mean, I did an article last August about it,
Hmm.
where I talked about the agencies like Priceline. I've been using it for a while. Um, I think, was it United, Lufthansa,
Yeah, a lot
Alaska,
of the airlines have it. I
a
think
lot
with
of.
PayPal also, right?
Yes, so some will use PayPal as well. And what you can do is you can use your PayPal account to pay, or you can get the PayPal financing to do it. The
Hmm.
cool thing about like a firm, for example, you can buy anything with a firm, anything at all.
Yes, yes, they
Uh,
said so.
and what they
And I
do
don't
is
think Uplift has that
no,
ability
no. A
yet.
firm by far is the best and more flexible one. So with the firm, like if you wanted to buy a computer, you go to say Apple and you say, okay, my computer is $1,000, or it's Apple computer. So let's say it's $2,000. And what you do, you come back to a firm and you apply for $2,000, and they basically give you a virtual credit card. And then you take that virtual credit card and you go over to Apple and you pay for it. Then what they do, they come back with they let's say you wanted 2,000, but the computer was 1,800. Then they give you about the credit for the 200, and then you start paying them over time, usually a year, and you can pay off at any time. There's no penalty or anything like that. And so the airfares work very similar. And as you go through the booking process, when you pick that option, it tells you what the payments are, and it goes and it gives you the credit. The cool thing is that
Right.
airline gets the money right now.
And I believe there's no
Companies will pay
penalty
them
for
later.
paying it ahead of yours,
No,
ahead of
no,
schedule.
there is no prepayment penalty. Uh,
So
so that's good. And the airline gets the money right away, and those companies are the ones. And they don't use, like, a firm doesn't use your credit. They use your phone. Everything is tied to your phone number. So it's as good as your, I guess your credit is as good as your phone credit.
hmm,
Yeah, so it's
so
not bad. So I'm glad that people are finding other ways to pay. In some other countries, they use you can buy tickets with your phone, and it gets billed on your phone bill, and so you pay it just like how you pay your phone bill is how you would pay for the airline
hmm.
ticket. So there's a bunch of creative ways for the airlines to
Yes.
still get their money. All right. So I think that was the
I think we have a
last
bad
story.
internet connection.
It keeps going in and out. It just gave me the internet connection
So
is unstable. Can you hear me again now?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
All
I
right.
can. But it's good though, because I think we've covered all the topics we wanted to for this year.
Yes, we have covered the topics, and I wanted to get some.
And we're at close to an hour.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't worry about the time. I was looking at some other podcasts about aviation, and they're about an hour. So it's all good. Let's see. Okay. So we have some feedback or some comments from one of our readers. It's actually quite good. Let me just see. Da, da, da. All right. So you had some comments in episode 65, which was the previous episode. We talked about the black boxes, right? And we were saying that why it's 2021, why can't we have live updates? Why do we have to wait on this black box? So he says,
this is regarding the Sriwijaya 737 crash in Indonesia
yes.
recently,
Yeah. And just aviation in general.
where they had trouble finding the cockpit voice data recorder.
Exactly. And he says, so you wondered why black box tech hasn't been changed to constant data feed to satellites. I imagine that the logistics are unfeasible and overkill. So currently the recording of black box data is localized and thus stored on each plane. It's easy to manage that data is physically stored on the plane. To change the system to satellites, every single airplane would have to send its data to a satellite. What does the satellite do with this data? Where does it store it? Are these satellites to be reserved solely for aviation use? If not, what about all of the other non-aviation data these satellites process? What does that do to the satellite bandwidth, storage capacity, et cetera, et cetera? And would digitizing this stuff could make it vulnerable to cyber attack or government manipulation?
I mean, a valid point, right?
A valid, very valid point.
But if we can launch or we can land a probe on a meteorite,
yeah,
I would imagine there would be a better way to keep track on an aircraft every minute, every second of its flight. I mean, know exactly where it is.
Well, because Airbus monitors that data because they were doing it for that flight that crashed over.
Yeah, but I think Boeing does the same thing, right?
Yes. Yeah, they do that. So, and yes, of course, it's a lot of planes out there, a lot of data going back and forth. But okay. But anyway, so that was his feedback. All right.
But
so
yeah, the storage and the volume of the information would be just beyond imagination.
But remember, we don't store it. Like we don't need it if nothing happens.
Right, but you don't know, right?
well, correct. But I mean, we normally get rid of it, so we just get rid of them. In terms of data storage, you just be getting rid of stuff. Like every time a plane lands and goes to the gate, and
no, but you don't know if, let's say, the crew had some trouble, with something, and I mean, they eventually resolved it, and then the next flight there is a catastrophic incident. You don't know. So if you didn't have the previous flight to know that something was not behaving normally, you wouldn't know that.
Well, we don't have that today.
Yeah, we do.
No.
So
because all that stuff,
in the Lion Air crash,
yeah,
of the 737 Max, they knew that on previous flights the crew were having trouble.
Well, right, but it's only the
one of the plane
forward, I think. Okay, so we just store them every other. We can figure it out. We store. We do exactly what a box does today, which it doesn't store the information forever, and it doesn't store a lot of flights. So we just do what it does today, at least as a basis.
Because I think a black box overwrites.
It does overwrite.
I'm not sure how often, but it does override.
Yeah, it does overwrite.
Overwrite.
Yeah.
The information.
And I
So
guess the other thing, I mean, we save, I guess we save the external transmission, but we don't save what's happening inside the plane.
internally, yeah,
Yeah,
because that is the most important, right?
it is. It is because they can turn it off
So
if they don't want us to figure out what's going on. All right. So one more comment he had. It said you mentioned that aviation accounts for only 2% of carbon emissions. This is when we're talking about
yes,
um what was the story you're talking about? Was it United or something? We're gonna go
um,
neutral by 2050 or something like
no,
that.
it was Boeing committing to 100% sustainable fuel by 2030
Okay.
for its aircraft.
God, I was totally wrong on that one. Um, so it said you mentioned that aviation accounts for only 2% of carbon emissions. Um, he said, what I'm about to say is meant to be very fuzzy. My information is very old now, but what I read is that the concern with aviation is not the total tonnage of emissions, but the theory that emitting carbon so much higher in the atmosphere makes that 2% much more deadly, in quotes.
Hmm.
Again, I don't know how much of this is theory or speculation, directionally proven in the lab, etc. But the idea is that the ground-based carbon is less damaging to the ozone layer because it dissipates, gets partially absorbed or whatever. Release the carbon closest to the ozone layer makes it more lethal.
But I would imagine the winds at those altitudes would do the same thing. But I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a valid point.
yeah, I don't know either. That's quite interesting.
So,
Um, oh, and
and given that isn't the ozone layer is at like 80 or 90,000 feet, I think, and most aircraft operate at 30 or 40,000. That's
yeah,
still a
it's
big
way up there.
difference. But still,
Yeah, it's still
again, with the winds and all that, I would expect the dispersion of carbon dioxide to be more significant up there at that altitude than it would be closer to the Earth.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
valid point.
I know, right? Okay, so and here's another point. Um, he was intrigued by the question, how do you get a Q400 to Canada? Because we were talking
Well,
about
people are listening.
I
Very
know,
minute,
right?
very
So it says, while not the most efficient route, based on its normal range of 2,040 kilometers, you could comfortably make Canada by these segments: Glasgow to Keflavik, which is Indonesia, to
you mean
go.
Iceland, right?
I mean, sorry, that's Indonesia. Oh, where's my brain? To Iceland. Oh, that'd be a nice flight.
Clearly in
Glasgow to
Indonesia.
Indonesia. To Keflavik, Iceland, and then to go, which is Nuuk, and then to Gander.
Oh, that's Greenland.
Yeah.
Nuke.
So
Isn't
so
Nuke in Greenland?
yeah. So he's thinking it
Ah,
would go Glasgow, Iceland, Greenland, Gander, and then
okay.
you're on Canadian
Yeah.
soil. And he says the latter leg is 1,710 kilometers. So you may choose Waybush, which is YWK in Labrador City instead.
Because a lot of the Embraer flights, for instance, from Brazil to Europe,
Yeah.
they cross the Atlantic.
Yes, they do.
So,
Yeah. And then he's
and I
mentioned
think they go
that
via the Azores, and they could also have additional fuel tanks on board. I would imagine.
if you go by the Azores, that would be really long.
It is long, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, it is long.
But
But
so
it would
you
still be shorter than going all the way up to North America to Canada to Greenland to
no, because you
Iceland.
have
And
that long piece that you have to do between the Azores and Boston. That's pretty far.
no, but Boston is not in the picture, right? For Embraer from
Well,
Brazil to
well,
Europe.
right. But why would you come so far down rather than just stay up in the north where you can see you're still
But
within
see, the Azores are sort of middle Atlantic.
yeah, but you don't
Like
need
it's
to go
not
mid-Atlantic.
really near.
If you
What's that?
stay if you stay north, you don't need to go mid-Atlantic because then you're too far down, right?
No, but you go off. you into the Atlantic off the northeast coast of Brazil,
Yeah. Well,
right?
are we still talking about the Q400s crossing?
No, 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 no. I'm sorry. I'm talking about Embraer. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
we're talking about different things.
they probably put extra tanks in there for the Embraers,
Probably.
just like how they do when they go to Hawaii on the 717s, and they have the extra tanks in
Like
there.
for instance, for Japan
Yeah.
and Northeast Asia for Embraers, I
Mhm.
would imagine they would have to go via Alaska
Yes, and just jump
because
across, but they probably do extra tanks.
yeah,
As that I need to find the 717 photo when
Qantas had them or
um
has them. How
yeah,
did they get them there?
well, probably the same way, the extra tanks.
Not all the way up and all the way down. Yes, oh that way. Yeah.
Yeah, they just do the extra tanks. And
Hmm.
but yeah, that would be good to see. He did mention again, there's an airline in St. John's called PAL, PAL
Uh-huh.
Airlines. It's actually the provincial airlines.
Uh-huh.
He says that they fly -8 -100s from Wabash to Quebec City.
Okay.
So
Where is Warbush? I've heard
Wabash
that
is in Labrador City.
okay.
So that's how he was saying that you can do Wabash to you can do Nuke to Wabash instead of Nuke to Gander.
Okay.
Because Labrador City has the runway is long enough to hold.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that was pretty
That's
good.
reassuring that at least one person is listening intently.
At least. No, we do. I mean, dude, we get thousands of downloads. So people are listening. They don't necessarily comment.
So
Unless the story resonates with them, then they won't necessarily comment.
yeah, yeah.
And the other one was um we had talked about how Delta had those COVID safe flights.
Yes. To
And
Rome.
yeah, so one of my friends took it from Los Angeles to Rome, Los Angeles to Atlanta to Rome to the Netherlands. And he says the Delta test is arranged with lab and super organized. They had decided they have dedicated gates right by the Sky Club where you register, check in, and then wait in a room for your results. Then they link it to your boarding pass, and you can't get on a flight without it. And
Hmm.
this is now required for all arrivals into Amsterdam, connection, or staying. It only paid I only paid for my own 72-hour test before flight,
Okay.
which was in LA, and the test in Atlanta and the one they do in Amsterdam on arrival is free as part of your flight.
Right. But that
And
was part of a trial though.
yeah, but they're still doing that. And
Yes.
the
Yeah. But
ticket
I think
cost,
when it's if and when it finally comes to when they implement it, I think it will
yeah.
be the responsibility of the passenger.
Well, yeah, but the ticket was $80 more, so they're charging you for
Okay.
it.
Okay.
And it said that they tested at least 150 people based on the numbers that she saw. And between Rome and Amsterdam flight, the flight was pretty empty. So most people
Okay.
are just connecting and going other places. Tu- tu-
Okay.
blah, 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 blah. Let me just check one sec again. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so no, so that just get an idea of what's going on with these things that we do
Hmm.
report. There are actually people that are during the test. I'm just trying to read here. Okay. So she was on the COVID test flight that experimented on Rome and Amsterdam. Blah 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 blah. I guess on the other flights they do the same thing that they do today. So there is no testing. But it is the rapid test that they're using in Atlanta.
Yes.
Top of the
Otherwise, it's impossible.
72-hour test that you have to do before. But so basically you have, if you're going to Amsterdam, you're going to be tested 4 times because you have to test 72 hours
3 days
before.
before.
You got to test the one in Atlanta when you do, and then you have to test when you arrive, and then you test again 4 days later.
Yeah.
And then you're out
So I
of
know
country.
Germany had, I think we talked about this several weeks ago. They had a little machine where you could get your results in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anything about that being implemented on a large scale. But
So the key is making rapid testing more reliable.
yes,
Yeah. So basically, I walk up to the airport, you test me right there, and moments later, it connects to my boarding pass, and I get my boarding pass, right?
yep.
Whether it's
So,
in my phone or wherever the boarding pass is, and I go through security, I
right.
do my facial coverings or whatever I do, and I'm on my way. And then when I get to the other side, those results should be transmitted to the other side, just like how you transmit that I'm coming.
I'm
Because
sure that
I do
is.
that
Yeah.
today. Um,
Yeah. Because otherwise you wouldn't be allowed to board.
well, yeah, but I think what she was saying that the information was they didn't ask anything on arrival.
Hmm. So they
So
know that you wouldn't have been allowed to board if you were.
correct. You wouldn't be able to leave, but I assume
Yeah.
that they have all that information in
So,
there. But good. So just just wanted to give you an update on that. I think that's all we had.
yep.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. And maybe you can, we do read your comments when we get them. So please send them through. Um, and you can find us at passwriter.com/WHIT, or you can send an email to feedback@passwriter.com, or just go to passwriter.com and send me a message. And we're on Spotify, we're on Amazon, we're on Apple iTunes. Go download and leave a comment there. We actually have a lot more downloads than we do on iTunes. Actually, if you wait
Yeah.
1 sec, I will tell you how many downloads we had last week. Give me a 1 sec.
You think people care?
Oh yeah. People should always be care. We're like, oh, of course the computer is really slow. Okay, here we go. Weekly update. So last week, this is Monday, January 25th to Sunday, January 31st. We had 12,912 downloads.
Hmm.
So that's actually, not bad. Episode 60 had 8,584. Episode 64 had 2,213, and episode 57 had 1,959. So
Okay.
people are downloading and listening. So we want to hear from you guys. Anyway, that's all
All
we have
right.
today.
Well, thank you for listening.
All right, man. Be good. We'll talk soon. And so signing off, this is Kerwin and my buddy.
For sure.
And we're signing off from episode 66 on Saturday, February 6th, 2021. All right, talk to you soon. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I was going to end the meeting, but I wanted to hit